Stan Hardy and his family have farmed in a southern Nevada desert oasis called Overton for generations, so it's no surprise that Stan's work at the Overton Wildlife Management Area, while providing 150 acres for his hay business, is also important to him personally because it's an investment in his family's legacy, his community, and the plentiful wildlife that migrate through the area or call it home year-round. Stan is no stranger to NRCS, working with us to improve his other farm acres around Overton and even converting to no-till. But the game farm is a unique partnership among the Hardys, Nevada Department of Wildlife, and NRCS that has the surrounding community appreciative for the investment made in the wildlife management area that hosts bird watchers, fishermen, hunters, and general recreationists alike. The management area lies in the lower extremes of the Moapa and Virgin River valleys, where they flow into the north end of Lake Mead, about 65 miles northeast of Las Vegas. Located in the Mojave Desert, it supports an abundance of fish and wildlife that contributes significantly to the biological diversity of southern Nevada.
Overton Wildlife is a great spot where there's some farming opportunity to also help with wildlife management and habitat improvement. I have a little bit more of a interest in it, and the fact that my grandfather actually farmed here in the 30s and was the last farm to be bought out when they put the dam in, so we have a little bit of family connection to it. But it's a beautiful place and it needed some help, and NDOW is a great partner to work with in the wildlife management, and the farming goes hand in hand. As you improve the agriculture, you improve the habitat for the wildlife, and everybody profits from it. Everybody from the bird watchers to the hunters to the campers, recreationalists, and me, just for being here and being able to be around it.
Okay, this is the Overton Wildlife Management Area. Its primary purpose is to provide habitat for waterfowl and shorebirds. Our secondary purpose is hunting. So this is on a migratory pathway. We're not in a major flyway, but we do get migratory birds come through. We're kind of on the outskirts of any major flyway, but we have ducks and geese migrate through every year. As the wildlife migrate through, they need a place. This is a wintering grounds primarily, so they need a place to come to. And then there's got to be food, forage for them to eat. That's what, with the Hardys, they provide forage for the ducks and geese. And then also the birds that are here year-round, they also provide forage for our upland species, our turkeys, our dove, quail, things that are here all year. Songbirds are also here. There's a lot of shorebirds that migrate through. But this is primarily a wintering grounds for waterfowl, is what it's primarily managed for. There's also some endangered species on the area. We have the southwestern willow flycatcher, we have the ridgeway rails, the yellow-billed cuckoo is on the area. Our partnership, it works really well for us. We don't have the manpower to provide the forage and habitat with the fields like sharecropping with Stan Hardy or the Hardy Farms does. We have 25% that we also get of the crop production. We choose to leave that in standing crop for the wildlife. So it works out well for our side of it, it works out well for the sportsman side of it, and it works well for the birds.
The wildlife management area is really large. We only use a small part of it. There's 28,000 acres here. I actually farm only about 150 acres of it, and the farm strip goes down through the middle and around the edges. We have numerous bulrush ponds for the wetlands. It's a wetlands area, waterfowl hunting area. So the birds can retreat and be in the ponds, and then there's the food plots which we farm. We have some that we strictly manage for food, and then the others are just a normal day-to-day farming operation. The geese in particularly do well on the alfalfa. We have the opportunity here of our hay never freezes in the winter. So all winter while the birds are here, the big ducks and the geese can graze. They actually graze about like sheep on the alfalfa, on the green leaves. So they can move from the ponds to the fields back and forth, and provides a place for them. And also it's probably the last area in Clark County that has hunting available for the public. And so it's a win-win for everybody, the wildlife, the hunters, and me as an agriculturist.
The project that we have on the game farm with Stan Hardy is a whole new area for us to work with the Hardys on for farming, even though they've been farming it for some years now. And the reason that I think it's such an interesting project is that it's kind of complicated. It's the kind of project that could unravel on you because it is a complicated ownership. The acreage there is actually owned by the National Park Service, so we have a federal senior layer of ownership. And then there's a game range on it that is then leased from the feds to the state of Nevada, and Nevada Department of Wildlife runs a game farm there, or game range, for migratory birds. And then Stan subleases land as a private entity on a portion of the fields that have been fallow. He then puts alfalfa in fallow fields. So before we had resource concerns of the fallow fields just being dust bowls that NDOW couldn't really manage. Now he's growing crops on it, but they were really never leveled for farming, for agriculture. They were somewhat level, enough to hold water for the migratory birds to come into small, shallow ponds like the seagulls and others that would come through spring and fall, but not for agriculture. So he's been farming on there, and those fields for him were uneven. They had water would pond midway or all over the field. They'd have ponding issues, and then you'd have weed issues, and so then more chemical. So, we're fighting unlevel fields.
Most of the property, including this, has been since the 50s, since there was any actual conservation projects taking place as far as land leveling or irrigation systems. So the fields were not leveled properly, lack of water. The water is becoming a critical issue. So as we improve the water management, we decrease the weeds, the dry spots, we increase the ability to irrigate more acreage, we become more proficient with or efficient with the water.
Well, this will be my 53rd year hunting at the Overton Wildlife Management Area. Stan has done a tremendous job down here. These fields, well, it's the best I've seen it in 40 years. The fields are really in good shape now. Now this pit, number 17, is in the middle of the field. With some of these fields, the alkali was so bad, it came out the whole way out to the pit, and there wasn't no alfalfa, not even any Bermuda grass. It was just kind of dead. Now these fields are in 100% good shape. You lost 50% of the field because of the alkali. Consequently, we lost a lot of our migration on geese and ducks. And slowly, now that the fields are in this good a shape, we're starting to get a lot of the migration back.
And so what we're doing on the game farm with the Hardys is leveling all of those fields that he's had in ag production, so that we have a nice clean run for the water, and then we get a good clean crop off of it. But the other part that is so interesting about the relationship down there is that part of the agreement is approximately a third of every field they have to grow for the birds, and so they call them feed strips. And so on a 10-acre field, you may have 3 acres that are put in with small grains just for the geese, the turkeys, the herons, and then you see them grazing it out to the point where it's down to stubble, but those parts of the field are never in hay production, they're in migratory waterfowl food production. And so NDOW gets something out of it, the farmer gets the agriculture. The agriculture is now improved because we're land leveling all of those fields, so everybody's saving water, so it's a water conservation effort as well. It could be complicated for one landowner and could just fall apart on you, and frequently does because the layers of ownership are so complex, is that if you have somebody who's tenacious like the Hardys are, is that they want to farm down there. And so we get them through the paperwork, and they're not paralyzed by it, but they make it happen. And now they've got a beautiful farm. They're bringing hay off, and we also, all day this morning when we've been out there, every time I come, is we watch all kinds of wildlife, bird life, come in and hunt and make nests and raise young, and so it's a really exciting project because all of us get something out of it.
Your agency, the importance doing us by coming out here and leveling the field is really doing us a good service.